Hello, everyone. We're going to start our next assignment, which is assignment 8. If you looked at it earlier, they had a different drawing. I picked a more simple drawing for us since we are doing this online now. So make sure you go and look at it again. But this is called the shock assembly. And what we're going to learn with this project as a whole is kind of how to create what are called blocks, which are very useful for large projects that have multiple pieces that are put together. As you can see on our AutoCAD, there's going to be a lot of small parts that we have to kind of arrange and keep organized. So I'm showing you this to kind of show you how I want to keep it organized. We're going to create our orthographics all in a line, front, top, and side views. Above it, we're going to create our isometrics. All right, and then once we have our orthographics, we're going to create an assembly view and then an isometric assembly view. All right, so again, I'm just showing you this just to kind of show you how I want it organized and to keep it neat. I'm actually going to close this and we're going to start this project together. Yeah, I'll save it. So I'm going to open my file just like we always do. I'm going to go to wherever you saved your title block. Do a file save as. And save it as assignment 8. All right, I'm gonna go to my model view, and then I'm gonna do the same steps I always do. All right, so first step was do a file save as. Second step is to go check my O snaps. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then click Z enter, A enter. Again, those are all steps we're supposed to do before we ever start any drawing. Again, hitting Z enter, A enter gets us to 0, 0 on our coordinate system. File save as, make sure we don't save over our title block. Our O snaps are set to what I personally like and what I want you guys to work with. I'm also going to check my polar tracker, make sure it's at 30 degrees just because that's what I like it. If you like to set it at 45, set it at 45. If you like it at 90, set it at 90. Whatever you prefer, set up your workspace to those settings. All right, so the first thing we're going to do, step 1, is create our orthographics of our 6 components. So you want to open the shock assembly document, which I've already have open once. All right. I'm going to start with the bracket just because it's one of the more complicated drawings. And then we're just going to look at it. And normally let's see if I can draw an arrow real quick. Where am I? Well, I was going to try to draw an arrow, but normally this is our front view looking at it at this direction. I'm going to flip it and make this U shape, this profile here, our front view. Just because I think that's more detail and it would be more helpful if we put that as the front view. All right, so it really doesn't matter where we start in space. I'm going to check my line commands. Notice we don't have all the line commands saved because we never went back to our title block and saved them. So I'm going to create some new line types, which brought it to the other screen. So I hit this icon here, which is, it looks like a stack of papers with a sun. And we're going to make a couple more. I know I need hidden lines. I need dimensions. I have object, I have construction center, hidden dimension. That should get us started. Dimensions, I want this blue color. Hidden, I want this darker gray, which is the number 8. I need to change the line type, which is right here. So I click continuous. So we have center and continuous. So I'm going to load a new line type. I'm going to scroll down to find hidden. Notice that there's 3 different hiddens. That's because you can have different size hidden lines. Again, just to help distinguish between parts, I'm going to just use the regular hidden line because we don't have drawings that are that complicated where we need multiple hidden lines. Hit OK. Just check to make sure it says hidden, that it actually changed. Dimension, we're going to leave continuous. I believe that's all I need for this project. So I'm going to close it. Go check it real quick just to make sure they're there. It is. I'm going to switch to my object line. Actually, I'm going to switch to my construction line to start this. So I'm looking at this part, and again, it's kind of an odd shape. So I'm going to just give an overall of 9.5 just to give me a starting point. Me personally, I like to start big picture and then work my way down. So I'm going to do a construction line, do a rectangle command. And then remember, when you do your rectangle command, that first box is your x-axis. All right, following this red line. How far along this red line do I want to go? I want to go the 9.5. I hit the tab key on my keyboard to get to the next box, which is my y-axis. How far up on this green axis do I want to go? How far up on this green axis do I want to go? I want to go the 2.375, 2.375. So I made a box from this top corner here to, if you follow this bottom corner down to this line, which is called my footprint, right? So again, the big picture, footprint, I'm going to move it down closer to my 0, 0. You don't have to. Again, it doesn't matter where you're at in space. I just like to always see that green and red line. Again, because I work with 3D models a lot, and those 2 lines are important when we start doing 3D, if you ever start doing 3D. So again, I have my footprint of my front view now, so I can kind of start tracing out the information I need. So I'm going to switch to my object layer. So I want to draw from this corner to this back edge, which is my 2.875. So here, over 2.875. I'm going to come down. I don't know exactly how far to come down, but I know I can go all the way to my footprint. The reason I don't know exactly how is because it didn't give me a dimension from this top face to here. It tells me the thickness. So knowing the thickness, I know I can click this line, click this editing grip, and come up the 0.313. So again, I didn't know what the length of this line was, but I can look at the drawing and use my problem solving. Because again, I drew this edge. Let me zoom in. I really wish I could draw. On here. Where are my shapes at? There they are. So we pretended like we drew this line, which we're going to make red, and I'm going to change the thickness. That way you guys can actually see it. All right, get this back over here. So this line we pretended was this red line that went from the very top edge here all the way to the very bottom here. And then I brought this up to 0.313 to get this length. All right, because I know the thickness is 0.313, I can now use my offset command. All right, specify offset distance, 0.313. Select the object. I want to click this white line, come down, this white line, come over. So this white line, this object line, is this back edge here. All right, if it went all the way up and all the way to this edge here. So I can extend this all the way down to my construction line, which I'm gonna do. And then I'm gonna hit my trim command. When we select trim, we always select all. We select all by right-clicking on our mouse. Notice that it has changed. So I want to trim this and this. And I hit escape. So we have this first, what I'm going to call the wing, this first wing. I'm going to zoom out, scroll over a little bit. So again, we don't know the length of this little platform here, or the base, what I'll call the base. But I do know that this part is symmetrical because it's 4.75 by 4.75. Since it's symmetrical, I can utilize the mirror command. So I'm going to click mirror, select my objects. I'm going to use my blue select tool, not my green. Again, blue, everything inside it selects. Green, everything it touches. So if I use my green, I'm going to select my construction lines, my footprint, and I don't want to do that. So I'm going to use mirror, select objects, use my blue select tool, hit enter to move on to the next step. Select object, specify first point to mirror, or specify first point of mirror line. I like to say specify first point of axis. I'm going to pick the very center of this footprint. Second point to mirror. So again, see this dotted yellow line? That's my axis. What I'm going to flip this around. Whatever I flip it around, that's what it's going to mirror. So I'm going to go straight up. Do you want to erase your source object? No. Again, if I click yes, it would have deleted this stuff over here. So now we have the second wing. Now all I have to do is connect the dots. Click here to here. Spacebar to end the command. Spacebar to repeat the command. Here. So I got the basic shape of this part now. Now all I have to do is these rounded edges, which are called fillets. All right. Again, that's a term we need to know, fillets. If you look, again, there's no dimension telling me the size of those fillets. But if I look and read our special notes, it says the part name is called a bracket. And then all fillets are a radius of 0.313, and all rounds are a radius of 0.625. All right, so your rounds are your bigger arcs, and your fillets are your smaller. That's a very common practice to say fillets and rounds. So I'm going to use my fillet command. I click it. I read my command line. It says that my radius is set at 0. So if I try to click these two, nothing happens because my radius is set at 0. Just for you guys who probably don't remember, a lot of your command lines is probably not docked like mine is. It's probably just floating here, or it might be just floating like that at the bottom. I don't suggest leaving your command line like this because again, it doesn't give you a whole lot of information, and I like information. So if you hover over these little dots right here, that'll allow you to move your command line, and then you want to bring it to the very bottom, and then so if you bring it to the bottom, it docks it like it defaults. But if you come down a little bit more, it'll turn into a box, and then you let go of your mouse button, and that's when it gets a command line like I have, which again allows you to read a little more detailed work. So again, I'm going to click my fillet. I'm going to read that command line. It says a radius of 0. How do we change that radius? So if we read our command line, we see that there's a radius option. So I'm going to click radius, or I can hit the R button. See how each of these are blue? If you just hit that letter on your keyboard, it would execute that command. But I'm just going to click it with my mouse. Specify fillet radius. So I'm going to do the 0.313. Enter. So now when we specify the first object, specify the second object, it actually puts that round in, or that fillet, that arc. I'm going to hit the space bar to repeat that command, and notice now that radius is set. So AutoCAD automatically keeps the last fillet that you did. So I can come here, hit the space bar here, hit the space bar here. All right, so those are all my fillets, all my smaller arcs. I'm going to do the same thing with the 0.625. So I'm going to hit my space bar again. I'm going to click my radius. I'm going to type 0.625, enter. So with the other one, we just kept hitting space bar to repeat the command, which is personally how I do it. I don't find this way any quicker or easier. But if you come and you keep reading, at the very end of our list, we have multiple. So I can also click this option. And so when I click, it'll keep the command to where I don't have to hit the space bar, which I see the advantage to it. But like I said, it's so easy just to hit the space bar. Why not hit the space bar? But you can do it either way you like. It doesn't matter to me as long as you get the drawing done. All right, so everything looks good in the front view. So I'm going to turn my construction lines off. All right, but notice we made a mistake. We never closed in the ends. That's why it's important to always check your work. So turn your construction lines off every now and then to kind of clean up the drawing to where you can see. All right, so I'm going to keep them off. I'm going to switch back to my object line. Close it, spacebar to end the command, spacebar to repeat the command. All right, and then that's my front view. I'm going to turn my construction lines back off because this footprint's important for two reasons. One, when we're doing our dimensions, we got to remember that we have to keep our dimensions inside of a footprint. And two, I need this footprint to draw my miter line. So I'm going to draw or switch to my construction line. I'm going to start up my top right corner of my front view, and I need a 45-degree angle. My polar tracker is set to 30, so I can't use my polar tracker. Now I can just look at this gray number. I'm going to switch. See how it says 41? Even though it says 41, even though it says 45, I can still, let me zoom in. See, I can move it a little bit and it's still staying 45. It's basically rounding that number off. So remember, AutoCAD can go on for infinity. So it might say 45, but it's really 44.981256, whatever. All right, we want to be exact. We want to be perfect. So if I actually type in the number 45, it will force that line to be 45 degrees exactly without rounding. How did I get to that box? Again, I'm just hitting the tab key just like when I use my rectangle command. So that's my length. So I can say I want a 10-inch line for whatever reason. It doesn't matter how long that line is, but I'm just going to say 10, tab over, and I'm going to type in 45 degrees. All right, that's one way. That's personally not how I actually do it. I'll do the line command, click this, then I'll go to my polar tracker, switch it to 45 degrees. That way I get that dotted green line and just pull it out. And then I'll come back and switch it. Again, you can do it either way you want to. It doesn't matter to me as long as you get a perfectly 45-degree angle line. And again, it has to be perfectly 45 degrees or your top view is not going to match your side view. So now we have this. I suggest from looking at this, I would draw the top view first because we can actually see the top view better. And then once we have the top and front, we can use those two together to create the side. So let's actually do the top view first. Again, I'm going to start with my footprint. So I'm going to come up. I don't want to do this. Let's draw a line first. Let's come up 2.5 inches. So I just drew this line just to give me some spacing. Now I'm going to do my rectangle command. All right. So again, how wide do we want it? 9.5. That's the x-axis. All right, the y-axis. All right, we're actually doing the depth of this part. So again, we're doing the top view, which is really width and depth now. So I'm coming over here. I got to pull over because this is my depth dimension. So I need 3 inches. So again, from here to here is 3 inches, which is from this corner to this corner. The width is from that corner, from that line to this line. They should match up, which they do. All right, so again, I could keep looking at this PDF, but I don't need to because again, I have this. So I want to use my construction lines just to draw up. There's nothing in the way of this right here, so those would be object lines from here to here. Switch back to my construction. So if I do the same thing on this side, right, to show this edge, there's something in the way. There's material in the way, correct? So that would have to be a hidden line. Spacebar to end the command, switch back. Same thing over here. If I come up, there's material I'm traveling through right here. So I know this is going to be a hidden line once I get up here. I'm going to draw it right here. And notice how I did that. So now I can just switch that to a hidden line. I'm going to do that again because some of you might have missed it. So again, I'm in my construction line or construction layer. I hit my line command. So instead of just drawing all the way through here, I'm going to go until I hit this edge and then keep going up. So I've made 2 separate line segments. Why did I do that? So I can convert this one into a hidden line. And again, this is easier to understand than this, right? So I'm going to pull this down. Same thing with these 2. Pull those down just to help clarify, make it easier to see and understand. All right, so looking at these squares, nothing's missing, nothing's taken away. So I know that this can actually just turn into an object line altogether because nothing's missing. There's no cutouts or anything. The only cutouts we have are the circles that are in the center of these squares. So how are we going to find those centers? Make sure you're in the construction layer. So from this back corner, which is this corner here, we come up or in the depth direction 1.5. So I'm going to hit my line command. I'm going to come this way 1.5, and then I'm going to come this way. How far? The 1 point. Well, actually, I'm just going to come all the way across. So the 1.188 is actually from this edge. We don't know how far it is from here to the center. All right, so I just drew this line all the way across. Let's actually move it over here so you can understand what I'm doing. So again, this 1.5 and this 1.188, they go together because these circles line up with one another. So I'm actually going to delete that. All right, so I came down here to 1.5. So now I'm going to come from the end of that line over the 1.188. I'm going to switch to my object layer, circle here. I'm looking, where's my dimension? So I'm looking here, the 2x just means there's 2 holes. That's my diameter symbol, and then 0.5. So I'll come back here, I read my command line. That's not asking for diameter, it's asking for radius. So I can either do the math in my head, or if you're lazy like me, you can just click diameter. And 0.5. Again, I know this part's symmetrical, so I'm just going to use my mirror command. Do you want to erase your source object? So I'm going to hit yes just so you can see. It's highlighted blue. If I hit yes, again, it deleted that circle. So don't Don't hit yes unless you actually want to delete it. And then I need a circle perfectly centered. So centered an object. So I'm going to draw a construction line from the midpoint to midpoint. Switch to my object layer. And then same thing, it gives me a diameter. So I'm going to hit D, enter to switch to my diameter, and then 0.75. So that's my top view. Again, turn off your construction lines just to kind of clarify. I believe that's everything. So looking at these two, I realized there's something missing. I would suggest you pause the video and try to see what's missing in these two views. But I'll tell you right now, it is the hidden lines in the front view. So I'm going to put my construction lines back on, switch to my construction line. I want to come to my quadrant, come down, down, space bar, down, down. Then I'm going to use my blue select tool to select all of these, change them all to hidden all at once. Notice that these don't actually turn into hidden lines. They look like just solid gray lines. There is a way to change this, and I suggest you write this down. It's called your line type scale, which you get to it by hitting LTS on your keyboard. Hit enter. So right now it's set to 1. If you need your line type scale to be smaller, you enter a number smaller than 1. So I'm going to do 0.75. Notice how the break shows up now. If you need your line type scales to be bigger, you enter a number bigger than 1. All right, so I'm going to turn my construction lines off again. Again, what are we missing? Look, pause the video, think about it, ponder it. There you go. So you should have figured out that you're missing center lines. So I'm going to switch to my center layer. I'm going to go to where it says annotate in my ribbon at the top. Come over, center marks. I'm going to click my circle, click my circle, click my circle. Click my center line tool. Click this line, and it puts a line directly in the center of the 2 lines you just made. Spacebar to repeat, spacebar to repeat. So again, it's not making it a center line, so I'm going to hit my LTS again, my line type scale, hit enter, so I'm going to do 0.5. 0.25. There we go. That's a little small. Let's see if I can go 0.3, 0.4. All right, we're going to stick with 0.4 because 0.5 didn't work. All right, so I'm looking. It looks like we have everything in the front in top view. I'm going to go back to my home, turn my construction layer on. And now I can start doing my side view. So I'm going to actually use my miter line. So I'm going to come over till I hit my miter line and down. Over till I hit my miter line and down. I'm going to start at this point and come over here and come over. So this box right here is my side view. If I come over here, again, I don't have any holes or anything missing. So I know this can just be a white object line altogether. So again, that right there is going to be this face and this face under here that we can't really see that well right now. All right, but we have this line already drawn. I'm going to explode this. That's this line right here. So this line I have highlighted blue is this red line here. So how do we figure out how to get to this bottom line, we can, again, look at our drawing and find the dimension, or we could just use our front view. Draw this over and then copy and paste this down. All right, or switch to your object line, draw it across, or you can hit your offset command, specify offset distance, which is from here to here, specify object to offset here. Again, specify offset distance from here to here. All right, select object to offset. I want to offset this line. The direction, I want to go down, and enter it in the command. All correct. It doesn't matter which way you do it. Again, that's going to be your preference. Do you like using the offset command? Do you like using the copy command? Do you like using the line command? That's all up to you. It doesn't matter to me. Same thing with the bottom. We know the distance on the bottom. So I'm going to offset, enter, up here. But looking here, materials going through. All right, so this needs to be a hidden line. Again, I'm going to draw a construction line just to show you where it lines up. Again, we traveled through the drawing, through the material, so that's going to be a hidden line. So now all I need is my holes. So I'm going to hit my line command here, down. So why am I only going through this section? Because that's where that hole is. That hole doesn't go all the way through this part. It only goes through this little bit of material, this 0.313 inches of material. So that's why that is going to be my hidden line. Hopefully that makes sense. Same thing when I do I want to make another layer here real quick. This is going to be my off layer. I'm going to turn it off just to kind of help clarify some stuff. So we're going to turn that off real quick. Well, there we go. Again, just to kind of help with clarity. Because this is where it gets a little confusing. All right, so again, we have this one in this top section. I need the same, this hole in this bottom section. So I'm going to hit my construction layer from this top quadrant over and down. Over, down, with the hidden lines. All right, so I'm going to turn all these off just to kind of look at it. Looks like we have just about everything except for our center line. So I'm going to do my center lines, annotate, center line command, this and this, space bar to repeat the command here and here. All right, and then that should be our orthographic for our bracket. All right, what do we need to do next? I'm going to go to my layout. I'm going to center this part up. So remember, we are in paper space now. I know because I can look at my status toolbar. If I double click, our viewport goes bold. Now we're in model space. I can also check, again, my status bar, make sure I'm in model space. All right, so again, just to kind of recap, if I draw something in paper space, it's in paper space, it's not going to show up in model space. Nowhere are those circles. If I double click and I go to model space, they're in model space. All right, again, double clicking here is the same thing as if I click this model tab at the bottom. Also notice that if I draw circles in paper space, I can select them, but I can't select my drawing. All right, that's because again, these are in two different spaces. You're in paper space now, you can't select anything in model space. All right, another thing I always suggest doing when you're in your layout, double clicking, going into your model and taking this grid mode off just because it gets kind of crazy. And then I'm going to click my viewport one time and we're going to set the scale. So I'm going to, well, let's start from the beginning. So I'm going to click my viewport one time, right click, properties. That's how you get this toolbar. Scroll down to see standard scale. Right now it's custom because I used my mouse to zoom in and out. I'm going to click down. Obviously 1 to 1 is going to be way too big, so I'm going to go 1 to 2. I would double click, pan around by clicking and holding my middle mouse button down, or I can use my pan tool here to move around. I suggest using that pan tool, that way you don't risk zooming in and out on accident. Again, we just kind of want to center it in the viewport the best we can to make it look professional. Hit escape to get out of the pan tool, double click to get out of the viewport. I'm going to check just to make sure I didn't mess up my scale. I didn't. So now I'm centered. I have my scale set. I'm going to hit display lock and put yes. What that does is when I double click, now I can't zoom in and out. I can't pan. That way you don't accidentally mess up your viewport. All right, you can still draw stuff in here. So if I draw and go, it's still there, but you can't zoom in and out, which is a big pain. If you accidentally zoom in while you're doing your dimensions, and mess up your viewport. So that's why I want you to put your display lock on. So now we have our scale set. We have our drawing centered. We have our display lock on. We can start dimensioning. Do not ever dimension before you set your scale. You always set your scale first and then dimension. Because if you do your dimensions first and then try to go back and scale it, some dimensions are going to follow the scale and some are not, and you're going to have a crazy looking drawing. So I switch to my dimensions, and we're going to have the same dimensions that are on here minus a couple that are double dimension and that we can leave out. So we can leave out one of these 4.75s, because again, the chain rule, we can always leave one link of the chain out. Make sure you're following all your dimension standards. Don't double dimension, don't dimension outside your footprint. Make sure you have enough dimensions, make sure to chain dimensions when you can, make sure to stack dimensions properly, all that good stuff. So I'm going to draw this just as a visual. You don't have to do this, but our dimensions have to be inside this drawing footprint, all right, this big drawing footprint. Again, you do not have to draw this, but just for a visual for now, I'm going to draw it. So I'm going to switch to my linear command. Again, I always start with an overall dimension in my front view. All right, notice that this is going to be too big. I'm actually going to pause here. This is going to be the end of this video, and I'm going to start another video that shows you how to actually change your dimension settings. But we've already done that, so you guys should be able to start on this project. And most of you, if you remember how to change your dimensions, can even move forwards. But if you have any questions after watching this video, be sure to email me. I'm here for you. So please don't put this project off. We have to start moving a little bit quicker, just to, again, get all the information we need before the end of the semester. Again, email me if you have problems.